Hello, I'm Penny Thornton, and welcome to my weekly update on what's going on up there astrologically, what's happening during the coming week. Well, we have a very big, dramatic, and certainly very interesting week ahead. On Monday, the 23rd, and if you want to be precise about these things, at 7:51 UT, that's GMT, the Sun enters the sign of Libra. Venus and Mercury are already in the sign of Libra, and there's going to be a new moon in Libra over the weekend on the Saturday. And I want to come back and talk a little bit about Libra in a second. But the first thing I want to talk about is the significance of the Sun's arrival in Libra, just as a general point on astrology. At the 4 quarters of the year, if we like the cardinal points of the year, that's when the Sun enters Aries, Sun enters Cancer, Sun enters Libra, Sun enters Capricorn. Charts are set up by us astrologers called Ingress charts. And what they do is give us a picture of the next 3 months, the following quarter. And it can be set up for the capital city of any country so that you have a different view of what's going on in the cosmos from the perspective of London or Washington or Moscow or Sydney. So the planets, the angles fall in different places. So on the 23rd of September, we'll be setting up our charts to see what the next 3 months looks like in various countries. And it is going to be a really, really powerful 3 months. The reason being that in that chart, we've got the moon in Cancer, opposed to both Saturn and Pluto, and intercepting that opposition of Venus and Mercury. It's what we call an angle of tension, a T-square. And in sympathy with that, we can expect to have some conflict and difficulty and tension, whether that's within nations, between nations, or within our own home policies and on our own home ground. And I think the very interesting thing is that in this particular Ingress chart, Saturn is very close to the nodal axis, and that's where eclipses take place. And they're often very kind of, well, I hesitate to use the word fateful, but things of an important nature tend to cluster around eclipses. And of course, we know pretty well when we look out on the world stage and see all those developing situations that we've got a lot of stuff going on in these next 3 months that's going to certainly shape the future for the world, for want of a better phrase. Now, in the UK, the Supreme Court is sitting on a judgment about Prime Minister Boris's decision to prorogue Parliament. And the general view, and it is supported by the astrology, is that they'll come down heavily against Mr. Johnson. So it will be deemed unlawful to have prorogued Parliament, and technically Parliament should now resit. But I suspect there'll be a lot of conflict around that decision, and even if Boris scrapes through, which is unlikely, there's still going to be an awful lot of shenanigans going on with people trying to block Brexit. It's going to be a difficult one. Now, of course, we all share those influences, and I want to be talking about those, in terms of what's going on in the week ahead for all of us. Now, I said I talk a little bit about Libra, and it's a very interesting sign because people think of Librans as the nice guys of the zodiac, and indeed they are. It's a very charming sign, a very graceful and gracious sign. But it's also a cardinal sign. We shouldn't forget that. All the cardinal signs are movers and shakers. They have ambitions and they're capable of running things. They're very strong signs. And, when I think of this particular week ahead with everything that we have going on in it, the symbol of Libra, the scales, that's the scales of justice, law, mediation. This is very present. I mean, these are the things that are going on in life at the moment. Coming back to our own individual lives and our own individual charts, I do mention birthdays from time to time that really pick up on the main influences of the week ahead. And again, we're looking at birthdays around the 7th of the month and also around the 14th of the month. And particularly, again, if you're a Cancer, a Capricorn, a Libra, or an Aries. Now, the reason being here that Venus is angling Saturn, Mercury is angling Pluto, and Saturn and Pluto are really quite close at this point. They're not what we call in exactitude, but they're very close. And with Saturn, we get crystallization, and with Pluto, we get transformation. If you remember a few weeks back, I was talking about the chaos and confusion that we had in an extended period of Neptune. This is really rather changed now. We're getting clarity. And with that, we get crystallization, which means situations are becoming structured and formed. We can see where we're going with them. But at the same time, we've got Pluto in there as well. The idea of endings and beginnings, new orders coming in. And if we look at that in terms of what's happening on the world stage, we can see it very clearly. Now we want to apply it to our own lives. It doesn't have to be a negative at all. It just means taking charge of our lives and not allowing fate or other people or circumstances to rule it. We sit firmly in the driving seat of our own life, even if we feel circumstances have a lot to say about why we are where we are right now. We're still in the driver's seat. We still make a decision as whether to go into reverse, go forward, what else we're going to do. And I think this divides us, and this is an important conscious thought. We can choose to become victims, blame circumstances and kind of crumble, or we can choose to be winners, which means being resourceful. Remember, I used that word with Saturn last week, see Saturn as a resource. So by being resourceful, by looking at the options, by another very important word, and certainly a very important word for this week, negotiation, we do move forward and we do change our circumstances. I promise you, we're not just living in interesting times, we're living in transformational times. The things going on at the moment are historical. And to a certain extent, we're all in that as well. And the things that are happening in our own lives, we may choose to think of as historical in terms of our family. So have a good week. Remember, don't be a victim. Let's be a winner, all of us. And I look forward to speaking to you on my next video next week. Bye for now.